The night was cold, and the Rubicon River flowed quietly under the moonlight. On its banks stood a man whose decision would change the fate of an entire civilization. His name was Julius Caesar. Behind him stood a hardened army that had fought beside him for nearly a decade. In front of him stood Rome itself, its laws, its senate, and the traditions of a republic that had existed for centuries. Crossing this river with an army was forbidden. It meant rebellion. It meant civil war. For a moment, history seemed to hold its breath. Then Caesar spoke the famous words, "The die is cast." And with that step forward, the rise of one of the most powerful figures in human history truly began. But Caesar was not born into power. He was born in 100 BC into the ancient but declining Julii family in Rome. The name carried prestige, claiming descent from the goddess Venus herself, but the family had little real influence compared to Rome's dominant political elites. During Caesar's youth, Rome was a dangerous and unstable place. The republic was torn apart by political violence, corruption, and rival factions fighting for control. These struggles shaped Caesar's ambitions early. He learned that power in Rome did not come only from noble birth. It came from courage, alliances, and the loyalty of soldiers. As a young man, Caesar showed both intelligence and daring. When the dictator Lucius Cornelius Sulla seized power in Rome, Caesar refused to obey orders to divorce his wife, who came from a rival political faction. This decision nearly cost him his life. Sulla ordered Caesar executed, but friends intervened and convinced the dictator to spare him. Even then, Sulla reportedly warned his supporters with chilling words. "In this Caesar, there are many Mariuses." It was a prediction that would echo across history. Forced to leave Rome for a time, Caesar served in the Roman army in Asia Minor. Here he gained his first taste of military life and proved himself as a brave officer. But one of the most famous stories from this period occurred when pirates captured him while he was traveling across the Mediterranean Sea. The pirates demanded a ransom. Caesar, amused rather than frightened, laughed at the amount and insisted they ask for more, because he believed he was worth a higher price. During his captivity, he joked with the pirates and even warned them that once he was free, he would return and crucify them. They thought he was joking. He was not. After being released, Caesar gathered ships, hunted the pirates down, captured them, and carried out his promise. Returning to Rome, Caesar began climbing the dangerous ladder of Roman politics. He understood that popularity among the common people could be just as powerful as support from wealthy elites. Through public speeches, political alliances, and lavish games for the Roman public, Caesar slowly built his reputation. Eventually, he formed one of the most important alliances in Roman history with two powerful figures, the wealthy general Marcus Licinius Crassus and the legendary military commander Pompey the Great. This political partnership became known as the First Triumvirate. Through this alliance, Caesar secured the position that would define his legacy, governor of Gaul. Today, Gaul roughly corresponds to modern France and parts of Western Europe. What began as a provincial command soon turned into one of the most extraordinary military campaigns in ancient history. From 58 BC onward, Caesar launched a series of campaigns that would become known as the Gallic Wars. At the time, Gaul was not a single unified country, but a patchwork of tribes constantly competing with one another. Caesar saw both a threat and an opportunity. If he could conquer Gaul, he would gain immense wealth, land, and most importantly, loyal soldiers who answered directly to him. The wars were brutal and relentless. Caesar faced massive tribal coalitions and fierce resistance across forests, rivers, and fortified hilltop towns. Yet he proved to be not only a fearless commander, but also a master strategist. His armies moved quickly, built massive fortifications overnight, and executed daring maneuvers that stunned his enemies. In one campaign, he even constructed a bridge across the mighty Rhine River in just 10 days to demonstrate Rome's power to Germanic tribes beyond the frontier. Perhaps the most dramatic moment of the Gallic Wars came when the tribes united under a young leader named Vercingetorix. This charismatic warrior rallied thousands of fighters in an attempt to push the Romans out of Gaul forever. The final showdown took place at the fortified city of Alesia. Caesar's army surrounded the city and built an enormous ring of fortifications to trap Vercingetorix inside. But the situation became desperate when a massive Gallic relief army arrived from outside, trapping Caesar's forces between two enemies. Many Roman commanders would have retreated. Caesar did the opposite. He built a second line of defenses facing outward, creating one of the most famous siege systems in military history. For days, brutal fighting raged on both sides of the fortifications. In the end, Roman discipline and engineering prevailed. The relief army was defeated, and Vercingetorix surrendered to Caesar. The conquest of Gaul was complete. The victory made Caesar unimaginably powerful. His soldiers adored him. His campaigns had brought enormous wealth to Rome, and his reputation as a military genius spread across the Mediterranean world. But in Rome, his success created fear. Senators worried that Caesar had become too powerful for the Republic to control. Eventually, the Senate ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. They feared he might use his army to seize power. Caesar knew that returning without protection could lead to prosecution or even death by political enemies. That is why he stood on the banks of the Rubicon River with his army behind him. When Caesar crossed the river in 49 BC, it triggered a civil war that would decide the future of Rome. His former ally Pompey and many senators fled the city and raised armies against him. What followed was a series of battles across the Roman world, from Italy to Greece, Egypt, and North Africa. The decisive battle came at Battle of Pharsalus in Greece. Although Pompey commanded a larger army, Caesar's battle-hardened veterans proved superior. In a stunning victory, Caesar defeated Pompey's forces and secured control of Rome. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was later assassinated. After years of conflict, Caesar emerged as the undisputed ruler of the Roman world. He introduced sweeping reforms, reorganizing the calendar, forgiving debts, expanding Roman citizenship, and launching massive construction projects. Rome had effectively transformed from a republic ruled by senators into a state dominated by one man. But power always brings enemies. Many senators feared that Caesar intended to crown himself king, something Romans deeply despised after centuries of republican tradition. Convinced they were saving the republic, a group of conspirators led by Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus plotted his assassination. On the Ides of March, Caesar entered the Senate meeting in the theater of Pompey. As he took his seat, the conspirators surrounded him. One by one, they drew their daggers. In moments, the man who had conquered Gaul, defeated Pompey, and reshaped Rome lay dead beneath the statue of his former rival. Ironically, the assassins believed they were restoring the Republic. Instead, Caesar's death plunged Rome into another cycle of civil wars that would eventually lead to the rise of the Roman Empire under his adopted heir, Augustus. In the end, Julius Caesar's rise was not just the story of a single man's ambition, it was the story of a republic already weakening under the weight of its own power. Caesar did not simply destroy the Roman Republic, he revealed how fragile it had already become. And centuries later, his name would become something more than a name. It would become a title that emperors across Europe would adopt for generations. Caesar,